What is up, sports bettors? Welcome to the Tuesday podcast here on Guys and Bets. NFL Week 2, so we're going to look at all 16 games on the board, where the lines stand at now, Tuesday afternoon. And as always, I, Andrew Avery, am sitting here with Joe Osborne.
Hello!
And Kris Abbott.
Hello, darkness, my old friend.
What's up, fellas? Week 1 in the books in the NFL. Overs 9-7. Favorites 6-9-1 ATS after 1 week. Takeaways from week 1, boys?
Hang on, wasn't the road team spread the big one, though? Didn't the road team cover like 10-5-1 or something like that?
Oh, did they?
Yeah. Yeah, that was the big one for me, takeaway.
Yeah.
Takeaways for me is big favorites didn't cover the spread.
Yeah.
The Eagles got backdoored,
Yep.
of course. The Seahawks barely squeaked by the
Yes.
Bengals. On Monday night, the Saints, who were favored by 7, barely got by the Texans. So
Yeah.
maybe something to keep in mind for next season.
How many?
Also, I got catfished by the Cleveland Browns.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. I'm going to wear that one for a little bit, but I'm
Hey,
probably
you
going
weren't
to
the
bet
only
on
one, man.
Probably going to bet on them again this week, though.
You were not the only one that was all in on the Browns. Of course, one of the, where were they on the futures board? 5th, 6th?
Somewhere around
5th,
there.
coming
Going into week 1?
the week, yeah.
And then got absolutely plastered by the Titans.
And I was very happy to see that. I had the Titans in a number of contests, plus 5.5. They have a really good defense, so I thought they were going to keep things close. I didn't expect them to win outright. I didn't expect them to completely obliterate them like that, but I was very, very, very happy to see that. I think the Browns have way too many personalities in that locker room, and they don't have the right coach there to manage it. That said, they're playing the Jets on Monday night, and we're going to talk about that.
Odell Beckham wearing a, $250,000 watch.
Oh, I just saw a
on the
tweet
field?
this afternoon and said, no, it's plastic, so he's going to wear it again this week.
Like,
And then he had, what was he tweeting last night? Like, if it's not something, it's something else. Like,
Yeah.
these divas, man. I saw a great, I don't know if it was a stat or somebody was talking about it. It's like, name the last team that had one of these diva receivers that won anything. Mm-hmm. After this year, you're going to be able to say, well, the Patriots had Antonio Brown.
yeah, true. Yeah, of course. Over the weekend, Antonio Brown cut by the Raiders and conveniently had his camera crew there to document everything.
Yeah.
And then, inks a deal with the Pats. So
Completely above board.
Yeah.
Bill Belichick waited until he was released and then made contact with his agent and said, I would like to pursue your client. I'm pretty sure that's how it happened, right?
yeah, I'm sure.
Give me a break.
I'm sure it was.
Very well orchestrated, though. You got to give him credit. Like, he looked at his situation, and the Raiders aren't going anywhere as quick. They're moving to Las Vegas.
The 1-0
of course,
Raiders.
The 1-0 Raiders, yeah. That shows some goddamn respect. But I think they saw the situation, and Rosenhaus probably said to him when things were falling apart, "Listen, you get cut, I can get you on the Patriots." And then he got a decent deal from him. He lose out on money long term, but $9 million up front, I think.
$20 million option? Yeah.
My question is, and we will probably never know this, but when did the conversation with the Patriots start? Was it this past week? Was it
when the whole helmet thing started?
Was it back when they tried to get him from the Steelers and the Steelers would not trade him to the Patriots, and then they just waited?
Well, last March, I think that's when, because obviously the agent would have known about that, so Antonio would have known about that. Oh, there is some interest there.
Get yourself traded, get yourself cut, then we'll sign you through loopholes.
Yeah. Yeah, and of course, the Pats win big on Sunday Night Football against AB's former employers. He, of course, wasn't available, not available till week 2. And, of course, we will talk about the Patriots game upcoming here. But first, let's start here with the Thursday nighter, fellas, which is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Carolina Panthers, which... Now, I watched that whole 49ers-Buccaneers game because I am a 49ers fan, not the prettiest football of the weekend by any stretch of the imagination. The Niners, of course, ended up winning big. The final score did not reflect what happened on the field. Tampa Bay did everything to give San Francisco that game. This one opened at 5.5. Carolina minus 5.5. Depending on your book, it's a full 7 or 6.5. What do you make of this one here, Joe Osborne?
So as you guys know what we're going to do each week on the show, I will give you guys 2 or 3 standout numbers, and then we'll kind of discuss that. So for this game, unfortunately, we have some trends that contradict each other. The Panthers, surprisingly, going back to last season, they're now 1-8 straight up and 2-7 against the spread in their last 9 games, whereas the Bucs, they've lost 7 straight games on the road, average losing margin of 11.14. But one number that I would like to bring to your guys' attention is a trend that's been taking place over the last couple of seasons on Thursday nights. Since 2014, the home team has covered in 61.1% of the games. Last season, 2018, big-time moneymaker. The home team was 10-3-2 against the spread on Thursday nights. The reasons for that, I think it's pretty obvious. The home team has a massive edge because the team traveling there on a short week has to recover in a hotel, that to heal in the hotel, so the game planning might be a bit rushed. So I think we're going to see that trend start to take shape again, maybe as soon as this week with kind of like a young team, inexperienced team at the Bucs. So I do like the Panthers. I like them a lot more at 6.5, though.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there was 2 bets that I made Monday morning as soon as I woke up, and this was one of them. The other was over 42.5 in the Ravens-Cardinals game, which is now like 47. Yeah, I think this is just a perfect number if you can get it inside 7 and maybe even after, but inside 7, I really, really liked it. I don't necessarily believe in Cam Newton, but I do believe in Christian McCaffrey, and I do believe that the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are atrocious. They had a tough opponent in week 1.
Played okay, I thought.
Okay. I mean, they hung with the Rams for most of the game.
Yeah.
Which leads me to believe they will win by more than a touchdown, especially coming off a loss against a team that's just not very good.
Yeah. Yeah, key number 7 there. But I agree here, guys. Carolina for me. Now, folks at home, dear listener, I have not locked in anything yet, whether personal bets or for contest purposes. Kind of like or contemplating the Panthers here. McCaffrey 19 for a $128 and 2 TDs on the ground. 10 catches for 81 against the Rams. This guy does it all. Yeah, I'm with you. Cam Newton, whatever. He gets the job done-ish on his day. But what I saw from Tampa Bay was horrible. Winston's a joke.
Yeah.
Winston is bad. He does have weapons at his disposal there, but just can't get it done. The first half, I was a little bit disappointed with the 49ers in they didn't really pressure him a whole lot. I think Bosa had Winston in his sights on one play, but Winston was able to sort of sidestep him there. Not a lot of pressure in the first half from the Niners, but they got it done in the second half. I expect the Panthers to have an easy-ish time here on Thursday Night Football.
I kind of do too. I am a little concerned for contests that this is going to be like a 7.5 though.
You're probably right.
I just won't take it in that case.
Yeah.
But what's with this narrative that Bruce Arians is this amazing Hall of Fame level coach?
Know.
Like he comes to Tampa Bay, he's gonna fix everything. He's a quarterback whisperer. No. He had a couple good seasons in Arizona. You got to give him credit for that.
Sure.
But I think that's kind of an overrated thing.
It is. I agree.
Yeah, I think his name was the only one I heard almost as much as Taysom Hill during the broadcast.
Yeah.
Like, give it up. It's like they're getting paid per Bruce Arians mention and per Taysom Hill mention.
Yeah. They got a quota to fill.
Unreal.
So, seemed to be unanimous there, at least depending on where you get the number for the Carolina Panthers.
And the Panthers, just to finish that thought, the Panthers only gave up 349 yards to the Rams. So, it's a medium number against a very good offense. So,
Minnesota Vikings travel to Green Bay to face the Green Bay Packers. This one opened with the Pack as 2.5-point home favorites here. It's now a field goal. Joe.
So the Packers have been on an absolute tear early in seasons at Lambeau Field. They are 12-0-1 straight up in their last 13 home games in September. A bit of a trend for the total in this matchup. The total has gone under in 7 of the last 9 games between these teams. Average combined score 40.33. All that said, I think I would lean Vikings as an underdog in the spot. I was very, very impressed with them in week 1, and I was not impressed with the Packers offense.
Yeah, this might be a stay away for me. I'm leaning Vikings, but it's hard to go against the Packers at home, and their defense was pretty good. Like, it forced Trubisky into terrible decisions, and it remains to be seen how much of that was Chicago, how much of that was Green Bay.
Right.
I thought Dalvin Cook was unbelievable, but the Packers only had 46 yards of rushing against them in week 1. So, and some decent running backs with Chicago, even though I'd have to look and see how many times they actually ran the ball.
Yeah, I liked what I saw from Green Bay on the defensive side of the ball. Loved what I saw from Minnesota there against the Falcons in week 1. The total opened 46, down to 44.5, though there are some 45s out there. If you're looking at the total here. Yeah, this is sort of a game that I'm going to use to gauge both of these teams because you're right. We saw the Packers, horrible Thursday nighter against the Bears. Rodgers didn't really get clicking except for the one scoring drive
That was
they had.
lucky too, man. He just threw that ball up, and whoever was going to jump the highest was going to catch it.
Yeah. And but yeah, defensively good. But if Trubisky's the measuring stick, then I don't know about that. Yeah. And then of course the Vikings just laid the smackdown on Atlanta.
That game was never in doubt.
Very impressive.
Yeah, and something of note that only one team had fewer yards on offense than the Green Bay Packers this week. $5 if you can tell me who it was.
Ooh,
was it the
Dolphins or Broncos?
It's the Dolphins. Dolphins had 200. The Packers had 213.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of pressure on Green Bay head coach Matt LaFleur in this one. He comes into the flower power. I think he came into the game in the season as supposed to be this offensive whiz kid, and we did not see that. So let's see what you got.
I think there's also some growing pains between he and Rodgers. I saw some people talking about it. They said the only time that they scored a touchdown was when Rodgers just said, frig it.
Play ground ball.
And throw the ball up down the field and go with it. So
let's go to the Jags at the Texans. Texans sort of hard done by in the Monday Nighter. Good football game there with the Texans against the Saints. This one opened with the Texans as 8.5-point favorites as of the opening lines posted on Sunday night. We now see the Texans around that number, but there is a 9 or 2 out there. Nick Foles apparently done until at least week 11.
Wow, I didn't hear that. 11,
but Gardner Minshew looked
45 years old.
He looked kind of okay. I mean, all he did at Washington State was throw the ball, and he came out and looked like that when he came on for relief against the Chiefs there in week 1.
He's a Pac-12 champion, damn it.
Pac-12 champion, and I know how much Chris likes his Pac-12 football, but what nuggets do you got for this year, Joe?
The Jags have been awful in divisional road games over the past couple seasons. Just 2-14 straight up in that situation. So who knows how much of that will apply with it being a rather large spread. And these teams, the past 2 seasons, played in some very, very low-scoring games. The total has gone under in 3 of their last 4 games. Average combined score of just 34.5 points in those games. So I kind of like the Texans in general in terms of their player personnel, but I think their coaching just absolutely
atrocious.
Stinks. You saw how they lined up on that last Drew Brees toss to set up the field goal.
What the hell was that?
You think Brees is going to throw a Hail Mary, for God's sakes, like in that situation?
That was so ridiculous.
Like they had never been there before. That's what that was.
That was awful. And Bill O'Brien, he's always mismanaging timeouts. So I think that the coaching did Deshaun Watson and the boys a major disservice there on Monday night. It was Monday night. Never mind. But yeah, I still think the spread may be a point or two too high.
I think it's a little too high as well. And Chris, how many times is Deshaun Watson going to get sacked this year?
He's on pace for 96 right now. That's a little frustrating. However, the Jacksonville defense did give up 491 yards this week, 378 of those in the air, and Deshaun Watson and DeAndre Hopkins could go off in this one.
Yeah, they could if he gets time.
You know, that's why I think the spread's a little bit higher. I think it's going to be played in the air, and he played against Drew Brees, who had the ability to gunsling right along with him.
Yeah,
it'll be a huge test for Gardner Minshew, and from what we saw, Leonard Fournette still ho hum like he was last season.
Yep.
I was really hoping that he was going to come out of the gates. So I think I'm on the Texans up to about 10 here.
Yeah, that's a good point about the Jags' defense. They allowed the fewest points per game at home last season, so that's obviously supposed to be their strength. And they got embarrassed by the Chiefs, who lost Tyreek Hill early in the game. They got lit up by Sammy Watkins.
He had a 60 and a 70-yard touchdown.
Yeah, so that might, obviously there's going to be some rest in a week 1 game, and you see some teams can be night and day from week 1 to week 2, but that's an area of concern. You saw people kind of making the excuse, well, they lost because of fools. Well, not really. It was the defense.
I think something to keep an eye on, too, is how Deshaun Watson's back responds over the next couple of days, and keep an eye out for local reports on that.
100%.
Because he was certainly uncomfortable through most of the game last night. His performance didn't indicate it, but once he kind of went to bed and seized up a little bit, will be interesting to see.
Constantly getting massaged on the sideline last night because of that pain, but man, that guy is a warrior.
Stud.
Top 5 QB in the league right now.
Well, man, it was like Hopkins had a string on one end and the ball was going through it, and Watson would just fire it down the cable. It was like a zip line to him every single time.
Yeah, very
Unreal.
impressive. Loved what I saw out of those two last night. Last week on the show, we sort of talked about teams that will be looking to bet on early in the season. I said the Indianapolis Colts. Joe, I believe you said the Tennessee Titans. Now these two clash on Sunday. This one opened with the Titans as a field goal fave. It is basically at that number across the board. Both teams covered. Obviously, the Titans did in their blowout win over the Browns. The Colts were able to hold on against the Bolts there as 6.5-point underdogs. What do you got for this one here, Joe?
The Titans, absolute money in divisional home games, 7-1 straight up and against the spread in their last 8 versus divisional opponents. They typically win when they're a favorite. They're 11-2 straight up in their last 13 games as a favorite. A lot of the Colts stuff, trends-wise, it's hard to really put a whole ton of logic behind it because Andrew Luck was the quarterback in a lot of those games. But I do think I like the Titans here. I think that they have one of the better defenses in the league. If Mariota is fully healthy, he can be an absolute weapon. So I think I would lean Titans in this one.
Yeah, I hate to always agree, but at 3 points right now, I thought Jacoby Brissett was fine. Adam Vinatieri has forgotten how to kick, so that could come into play. And I think they're going to run into a tougher defense than they did with the Chargers. So
for sure.
So yeah, I would definitely lean toward the Titans here right now, and I think that's where we're seeing most of the money come in. As I was just looking, 65% of the bets on Tennessee, 35 on Indianapolis. Probably stay away at the end of the day for me, but I would definitely go Tennessee if I was forced. I'm still thinking about that Derrick Henry run down the sideline where he looked like he was in regular speed and everyone else was in slow motion. It was
He cannot be stopped.
Yeah, Derrick Henry, 19 for 84 and a touchdown on the ground. He had the one big catch for 75. A.J. Brown, 3 for 100. And Marcus Mariota, a snappy 14 of 24 for 248, 3 TDs, no picks. And, of course, Baker Mayfield threw the 3 interceptions there in the embarrassing Week 1 loss.
Maybe something to consider coming into this game is that Cleveland's defense was trash.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So maybe under as well. I don't know.
Could be. I think you're right, though. I think as it stands now, probably a game I'm not going to touch. But I think Joe Osborne could do a good job and talk me into the Titans in that one because of the Week 1 teams. Tennessee is probably one of the 4 or 5 best from Week 1. One of the teams that was probably the shining beacon of Week 1 was the Baltimore Ravens. And they get to host Kyler Murray and the Arizona Cardinals in week 2. This one opened with the Ravens as 13.5-point favorites. There's some 13s there, but still at that number of 13.5 at most shops right now, Joe.
Yeah, I think this game's kind of a little tricky to get a feel for. The best trend coming into this game is for the Cardinals, and it's not a good one. They're just 2-12-1 against spread in their last 15 games playing in their early afternoon. So when they play on the East Coast, traveling from the West, they have not fared very well over the past couple of years. Now, I don't know how much water that carries, considering they have a new head coach and quarterback. But one thing that I would like the people to keep in mind for this one, and this is a overreaction thing. People tend to always overreact after an awesome Week 1 performance, and obviously we're going to give the Ravens credit. Awesome performance in Miami. They completely humiliated them. Week 1 of last season, they also had an incredible performance. They beat the living shit out of the Buffalo Bills 47-3. The following week, they had a disappointing loss to the Bengals. They lost by 11 points against the Bengals in a game that they probably should have won. So maybe a letdown spot for the Ravens. Hard to say, but I do think that spread's too many points.
Only 16 times in our OddsShark database have the Baltimore Ravens been a 13-point or more favorite. Once last year, and they covered against Oakland, but the 4 times before that, all games at home, by the way, they lost. So this is interesting. I think it's probably a little bit too much for me. I thought Kyler Murray was a bit better. You guys already know that I'm on the total in this game, so I'm probably gonna stay away from a side. But it'll be interesting to see what Lamar Jackson's able to do. They may run up the score on them again. It's a big number, though, and it's uncharted territory, basically, for the Ravens, but we'll see.
Yeah, I think for the Cards, it just came down to figuring things out. They looked like shit the first part of the game, but, a lot of hype around the air raid offense with Kingsbury and Murray, and they figured things out. They were unstoppable in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, and the Cards' run defense was fine, I thought, during the game.
Their secondary shut down Kerryon Johnson.
Their secondary got abused, so my question then is, is Lamar Jackson's arm as good as Matt Stafford's? He kind of lobs the ball up there a little bit more, so we'll see.
Well, Lamar Jackson, 17-20, 324, 5 TDs, and a perfect 158.3 passer rating there in the 59-10 win over the Dolphins. And Kyler Murray, tale of two halves there for the Cardinals. Murray finished with over 300, not the most efficient completion percentage there for him, but clawed their way back into the game to end with a tie. Tough game, though. A lot of points on the board. Is this an overreaction to what Lamar Jackson did? I don't know. Tough one for me as it stands right now, but could be an entertaining game nonetheless. Let's go to another tough one. I hate this game. The 49ers at the Bengals. We had an opening line of Cincy plus 1.5 in this one. And now we are seeing Cincy -1, -1.5. I see a -2 in Las Vegas. Of course, Tevin Coleman sidelined with a high ankle sprain here. Joe Mixon, ankle sprain as well, but he has a chance to play, so keep an eye on his status, Joe.
Yeah, I was really impressed by the Bengals in Week 1. Seattle's not an easy place to play, and I thought they called a really good game, and they kept it tight. I thought Andy Dalton played a good game as well. Taking a look at the 49ers, typically not very good on the East Coast. We know they cover in Tampa Bay, but 2-8-1 against the spread in their last 11 games on the East Coast. Now, the question that I have about that trend is, did the 49ers go back home to San Francisco? Then are they going back to Cincinnati? I do not know the answer to that. But either way, it is a lot of travel. And if they are staying in Cincinnati, that's a very long time on the road as well. I know the guys aren't staying in a Motel 6 and traveling on a Greyhound, but still, you got to appreciate the comforts of home. Cincinnati, very well-rounded game. They were 4th in net yards per play last week. So I would lean towards the Bengals. You guys know I picked over on their team total coming into this season. So if they want to hit that, this is one of the games that they have to win.
Right.
Yeah, I thought Andy Dalton looked really, really good. I don't think there's any question about that. And Cincinnati looked better than we thought they would. Ninja, I know you're a 49ers fan, but, man, they looked terrible. They took a lot of penalties, taking away 2
Quan
George Kittle
Alexander
touchdowns.
kicked out of the game.
Yeah, so not a great start for a team that needs to make a statement this year. I thought Garoppolo was
He
fine.
was very pedestrian.
Yeah.
And like I said, the 31-17 scoreline flatters the 49ers because it's not reflective on the play on the field.
Yeah, so I would think the opening line reflected Cincinnati's reputation.
Yeah.
And clearly bettors have seen the game they played last week. They came ready to play in one of the toughest buildings to play in all of the NFL and did pretty well. So, yeah, I'm on Cincinnati here too.
Yeah, tough game, tough spot for the Niners here. Gun to my head, though, right now, as we sit here on a Tuesday afternoon, would be to lean to the Bengals, but we'll see how that one plays out. Next up, Chargers at the Detroit Lions. And we have an opening line of Lions plus 2.5, and now we are looking at that, and there are a smattering of threes out there. Of course, we just talked about the Cardinals game a couple games ago, but the Lions blew it at the Cardinals there in week 1. Chargers, decent game. Didn't really miss Melvin Gordon a whole lot there in week 1. What do you got for this, Joe?
Yes. So the Chargers, of course, are the team without a true home. Moved to San Diego to that little field somewhere in the middle of California, where the opponent often has more fans in attendance. However,
It's called like Luxury Health Stadium or
I thought
something.
it was StubHub last season, but yeah, they probably
something Dignity Health, I think it's called.
sold the rights on it. But man, the Chargers so good on the road, guys. They are constantly undervalued, as I believe that they are in this game. Check this out: they are 22-7-1 against the spread in their last 30 regular season road games. Absolutely money. Then 2 trends that kind of pair up pretty good. When Tab does a favorite, Chargers usually win 15-3 straight up. When Tab does an underdog, the Lions usually lose 3-12 straight up. So Chargers, I like them on the spread. I like them on a money line parlay ticket, and I especially like them on a 6-point teaser.
Dignity Health Sports Park, and the capacity is 27,000.
Gosh.
Yeah. Formerly the Home Depot Center, formerly the StubHub Center.
Now, is that where the LA Galaxy play?
I think I just saw that somewhere.
Yeah.
Uh,
I'm putting an asterisk by this game. And,
Tenants.
I might lock in the Chargers.
Tenants, LA Galaxy 2,
The sequel.
and the Los Angeles Wildcats will also play there in
Who
the
are they
XFL.
now? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Oh, who are they? Come on. You don't have your Wildcats merch?
Sorry, man. No, not yet. I don't have an XFL team.
This is another bet that I've already locked in. As soon as I saw that it was starting to go, I ended up getting it at -3 at my book, but I do know that some still have it at -2.5. Yeah, I mean, Matt Patricia's on my shit list right now for sure.
That was embarrassing.
The Detroit Lions showed that they could not stop a team with a capable offense, and that's certainly what Phillip Rivers and Austin Eckler is going to throw at them.
Totally.
And you know, Detroit's offense, it was okay, but I have a feeling that that LA covers here. A lot of these games with these numbers are pretty easy. And now, if this number's 5.5, then I got to start thinking. But as long as these spreads keep coming in under a field goal, why aren't you looking at the better quote unquote team? So I know it seems like we're all in agreement here, but how can you not be right now?
You can't. It looks, everything is pointing to the Bolts here and Phillip Rivers and his bolo ties. I think I might lock that one in here when the podcast is complete. Now, next up, one of the teams that looked best in week 1 against the team that looked undoubtedly the worst. And of course, all the chatter was, what is the line going to be when the Patriots visit the Miami Dolphins? And right now we are looking at the Patriots as 19-point road favorites at their AFC East rivals. Now, Joe, what do you got for this? Tell me there's something. for the Miami Dolphins.
Well, there is actually. Everyone knows that the Patriots, they struggle when playing in Miami. I don't know if they're going out and partying in South Beach before the games,
Could be.
but over the last 6 years, they're 1-5 straight up and against the spread in their last 6 games in Miami. So not very good there. That would be the only thing that would favor the Dolphins. So if you want to look at the Patriots as a big favorite, as a double-digit favorite since September 2015, they're 16-4 against the spread, but this is a mega double-digit favorite at 19. So a bit of a smaller sample size. When they're favored by more than 14 points, they're 5-1 against the spread in their last 6 in that situation. So it's kind of, this game reminds me of when Alabama was playing Duke in week 1 of college football, and it was Alabama or nothing at all for me.
Yeah.
That would be the case here with this. I probably will not be taking this in any contest or anything like that because you worry Patriots maybe pull the starters or something like that.
Yeah.
But I think Belichick's going to want to make a statement against former coach on his staff, Brian Flores, who's now the coach of the Miami Dolphins. Antonio Brown is going to want to make a footprint right away. He's from the Miami area. So all those type of narratives also favor the Patriots. So Patriots or nothing. I would love to see the number come down a bit, though.
There's not much to add to that. I already locked them in at minus 18.5. The my primary book didn't put it on the board till this morning. Some, had it at like 15 or whatever when it opened. So I grabbed it 18.5. Some Oddshark's Twitter account asked last night, at what point do you back the Dolphins?
Yeah.
And I said 24.5 would be where I start thinking about it. Probably
you got to cross
28.5.
that key number of 24.
Well, no, 24 is for real, man.
Oh,
It's
I know.
3 touchdowns and a field goal.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, I think 24. Everyone talks about the 3 and 7 point increments, but the 4 is 4 will get you, man.
Yep.
I think the total might be the play there over on that because the Patriots are going to put up points here. And I don't know if Miami will be shut out. I mean, often you get in these situations where a team gets down by 3-4 touchdowns and they just start chucking it. So getting into the end zone maybe favors them a little bit in that situation. So I think if you want to make a play on that game, besides Patriots money line, of course, the over might be the way to go.
Well, you brought up the Alabama, and this does have a college feel, right? Like it feels like you've got a Power 5 team going against a FCS team. And that's not right to say about a bunch of professional football players, but it's the case. Plus, you got all this guys wanting to jump town, and everything is not good there in Miami right now. So, yeah, I mean, I might be a little bit hesitant if this was later in the season, and New England might come in and see an 0-7 Miami team and say, we might they might start a bit slow. But I think in week 2, I think this is an okay spot on the favorite.
Buffalo Bills visit the New York Giants. Plus 2.5 is what was put out there on Sunday night. Giants plus 2.5, I should say. Seeing 2s. There's some 2.5s in Vegas here, but most shops are offering the home team as 2-point underdog. Sterling Shepard in concussion protocol on this one. His status is unknown. I think he had 6 catches for 42. Saquon Barkley, 120 yards, looked great, but only carried the ball 11 times for some reason in the Giants' loss to the Dallas Cowboys. And, of course, the Bills come in fresh off, a nice win?
Escaping a loss is what they did.
Against an awful team.
Yeah.
Do we think the Jets are awful?
Yes.
I like the defense.
As a Dolphins fan, I have been through the Adam Gase experience, and it is not a good one, guys. The Jets, as a Dolphins fan, I'm happy that the Jets hired him because they're just going to have to go through another rebuild 3 years from now.
Yeah.
I'm happy they gave all that money
to
Le'Veon Bell. Yeah, it's not a good situation for the Jets. They will not finish above 500 this season.
It's a damn shame. What do you got for this one?
So we have a total of 43.5, and it might be a good spot for the under. The total has gone under in 7 of the Bills' last 8 games on the road. Average combined score of just 36 in those games, so number might be a bit high considering also how bad the Giants' offense didn't look very sharp there against the Cowboys. Now the Bills, not very consistent on the road over the past couple of years. They're just 2-8 against the spread in their last 10 games on the road after covering in their most recent road game. So you might say maybe a little bit of coincidence there. Maybe there is. But you can't deny that they're not a consistent team. So if playing that one, I would side with the under.
Like the under. I like Saquon Barkley to go off in this game. I'm going to look for like a scrimmage yards prop for him because he was underutilized last week. There's a whole lot of scrutiny about that. So I'm really not sure how this game goes. Buffalo was the third best in terms of yards against for defense last week. Baltimore, Chicago, Buffalo. So that's interesting, but that does speak a bit to Sam Darnold. But they shut down Le'Veon Bell.
17 for 60.
What was 17 for 6? Oh,
Le'Veon Bell. 17
yeah.
carries, 60 yards, 3.5. Devin Singletary, 4 carries for 70.
I thought the 17 for 60 was Sam Darnold's passing numbers.
It could be. It'd be very, very similar.
So, I mean, hate to take all the favorites, but the Jets were trash, and if you're inside a field goal, thing is, these are two bad teams. Maybe Buffalo money line is minus 130 right now, too.
Josh Allen, 24 for 37, 254 a TD and the 2 picks, though. And John Brown, 7 grabs for $123 and a touchdown there. Yeah, tough one here. Probably lean with the home team.
All right.
Probably lean with the home team. Seahawks visit the Pittsburgh Steelers in week 2. This one opened with the Steelers as 4.5-point favorites. This one has now moved to 3.5. There's some 4s out there. Juju Smith-Schuster has a toe injury, but it doesn't seem to be serious. Very embarrassing performance for Pittsburgh on Sunday Night Football. And Seahawks, we talked about the Bengals earlier. They sort of escaped by the skin of their teeth.
Yeah, probably the least impressive win in week 1. One of the least impressive wins, at least.
Yeah.
But taking a look at some of the numbers coming into this one, they favor the home team. We talk about those early season home-away splits. The Seahawks have been awful on the road in September. They're just 1-8 straight up and 0-8-1 against the spread in their last 9 games on the road in September. Last season, you'll recall, they opened the season with 2 losses on the road, so maybe they're a slow starter in general. Whereas taking a look at the Steelers, they're a pretty good team at bouncing back. 9-2-1 straight up in their last 12 games after a loss. So, that might be the worst game they play all season. Maybe the worst game Ben Roethlisberger plays in his career against the Patriots. I can see the Steelers bouncing back, but the Seahawks are so inconsistent. Some weeks they look like one of the best teams in the league. Some weeks they look how they did versus the Bengals in week 1. So tricky game to call. I would like the Steelers maybe on a tease to jump the fence with them to an underdog spot. But tough game to call.
Ninja, I'm going to stop what we're doing for 1 second. I just got an
talk
update
about England-Kosovo.
that Kosovo has scored a goal, and I've got both teams to score in the first half at plus 700.
Yeah.
And
so
how far are we into this game?
2
Not.
minutes.
Oh, get out of here.
So folks at home, we're recording this on Tuesday afternoon. England and Kosovo are playing in Euro 2020 qualifiers. Chris decided to bet on England and Kosovo, both teams to score in the first half, and Kosovo scored in the first minute. That was 7-1.
So you need England to score here?
In the next 42 minutes.
And that's a lock, essentially? Or?
It should be.
Should be. Wow. Seahawks Steelers here, Chris.
Okay, sorry. I'm out. Oh, that's a big bet. And
I've got a lot of money on a curling game taking place this afternoon, guys. And
this I could potentially see an over in this game. Both defenses kind of got torched. If Russell Wilson decided to pass the ball a little bit more, we could get, I think we have 46.5 right now. So I'm thinking it could go over. I don't think Pittsburgh's going to lay another egg like they did Sunday night. I think I think both teams got a lot to prove here too. So spread wise, I don't know. I'm going to be honest. I don't know. I'm leaning Seattle though, getting 4 and maybe more.
The Dallas Cowboys, they visit the Washington Redskins in week 2. This one opened with the Skins as 6-point home underdogs. Now around 4.5 or 5, depending on your book. Obviously, big NFC East game. I assume, Joe, normally tightly contested games here. If you have info to support that.
Yeah, they do typically play in some tight games. These two teams, as you'll recall, the Redskins actually beat them last year, and so they usually play in some tight matchups. If you guys watch this show today, though, I'm kind of throwing those games out the window, and I'm gonna go. I picked the Dallas Cowboys to cover the spread. I got them at -4.5 because I'm scared that it's gonna get even bigger and go above 5. So I want to grab that number early. A few things to support the Cowboys. They've been awesome in divisional games, 11-3 ATS in their last 14 games versus divisional opponents. The last 5 years playing in Washington, 4-1 against the spread in those games. But maybe the most interesting number, and I'm still considering in this play because the total is going up, so I might wait to see if it goes even higher. The Cowboys have a road over-under record of 8-24, meaning they've gone under in 75% of their games since September 20th, 2015. During the span, average combined score in the home games is 46.1, road games 38.84. So I do kind of like the under in that one as well. Also, just by looking at some stats and stuff like that, you don't want to be totally trend dependent, but it could be a good spot to grab the under.
For me, I love Dallas here, up to 7 points for sure. This line opened, 4.5, 5 at some places. Went to 4.5, which really surprised me because I thought Dallas looked phenomenal in their opener and Washington didn't. And we talked about this on the Guys and Bets lunchtime show today. And we're both just all over Dallas. There's not much more to say about it for me. I just think this line is wrong.
Darius Geis hurt again, which means we could see some Adrian Peterson in this game. Case Keenum, 30 of 44 for 380, 3 TDs, and no picks. The hell kind of stat line is that for Case Keenum? He was out there slinging it against Philly.
Yeah, he and Andy Dalton, right? Just having great days, but they'll have a regression to the mean.
A battle for the AFC West goes down as the Kansas City Chiefs visit the Oakland Raiders.
Who must be respected. God damn it.
This one opened with the Raiders as Sunday night. It was 9 points they hung out there. 9-point home underdogs. It's come down. It's 7.5 or 8.
Bit of overreaction there, bud.
Depending on the book. What do you got in this one, Joe?
A big number to support the Chiefs. They've been money in divisional road games, 14-3 against the spread since December 2013. Oddly enough, though, the 3 ATS losses all came in Oakland. Which is strange, but I do think that number coming down 1.5 is an overreaction. KC they picked up where they left off last regular season, didn't they? So, if you're giving me that at 7.5 today, I am on KC all day.
I think the worst thing that the Oakland Raiders could have done for their bettors in this game was win last night.
Yeah.
Because it will give KC a better number. Patrick Mahomes is not Joe Flacco. That's the easiest way to put it. They don't have a great defense, do the Chiefs, but clearly either do the Broncos. So over under 52 here. If Derek Carr comes out again, I like that. But I'll be backing the Chiefs up to 10 points for sure.
Yeah. Up to 10?
Well, yeah. If it's 8, you might as well take 10. That's how I feel. But yeah, I think they come in and take care of business here.
New Orleans Saints visit the LA Rams. The Rams opened as a 3-point home chalk in this one. England score. Harry Kane, too.
8 minutes. 8 minutes it cost to get me plus 700.
Was it Harry Kane, though?
What a day we're having. I don't know. I've got to check that.
I know you have Harry Kane at even money.
I know.
Rams open as field goal home faves. There are 3s and 2.5s out there. Both of these teams coming off of wins, narrow wins. But Saints winning in week 1 was big. It bucked a bad trend that favored their opponents coming into this one the last 5 years. Breeze looked okay. Most of the secondary, not Lattimore, but everyone else looked porous. And the Rams with Cooper Kupp out there, sort of a different machine. What do you have for this one, Joe?
Yes, so we'll give the Saints credit for picking up the W, but they did not cover the spread, which has continued an awful trend of them. Their awful bet early in the season. They are now 2-14 against the spread in their last 16 games played in weeks 1 and 2. So they got off to a really bad start in that game, and I think that's what made the difference. The Texans had a healthy lead at halftime. Also, taking a look at Rams quarterback Jared Goff, he is so much better at home, guys. Last season, his quarterback rating was 34 points higher than on the road. He only threw 3 interceptions at home versus 9 on the road. Rams on a nice little run here in home games, 8-1 straight up in their last 9 at home. So I think you'll see the Rams unleashed.
Yeah, I agree.
This week, and I like them to pick up the W. And one thing I want to say, guys, don't go into this game with the narrative that it's a revenge game for the Saints because of what happened to them in the playoffs last year in the NFC title game. That's not going to make a difference, and you shouldn't use that type of logic when trying to pick games against the spread. So I like Rams all day.
Yeah, especially if the game was in New Orleans, you could make that argument maybe a little bit, scene of the crime type thing. But I maybe over 53 could be a play in this game as well. Jared Goff doesn't get me overly excited. I would take a look at New Orleans as the underdog here. Might be a stay away, maybe just watch and enjoy it because both of these teams are elite and both had good openers. So, I'm going to have to take a longer look at this one as the week goes on. But it's the Saints as an underdog coming off a big win on the big Will Lutz field goal. I don't hate it.
Yeah, I think I'm with Joe here. I think I like the Rams, contemplating them as a contest pick as well. Different beast at home. And a different team when Cooper Kupp is in the mix. And might be a play here for me. Not as much as this one, though, which is one of my favorite games and bets of week 2, which is the Chicago Bears at the Denver Broncos. This one hung Sunday night as a pick. It is now Denver +2. So 2-point home dogs there. Obviously, the butt of many a week 1 joke, the Chicago Bears, after that disgusting Thursday Night Football effort. Trubisky should have thrown about 7 interceptions in the first half alone. Bears defense looks as good and as hungry as it did last year. Came out hitting and tackling and making plays against Green Bay. And I think they can win this game on their own. I don't even think they need anything from Trubisky. What do you have for this one?
Yeah, the Bears defense looked awesome. And one thing to keep in mind with the NFL, man, it's such a week-to-week league, and some teams are just polar opposites one week to the next. So coming into week 2, I think we're going to see some overreactions with maybe the Bears, maybe the Falcons, maybe the Browns. I think you'll see 2 of those 3 teams kind of bounce back big time, and I do think the Bears will be one of those teams. If you're looking for a total play, the Bears tend to play in some very, very low-scoring games. The last 6 games, average combined score of just 27.17 points. One thing to keep in mind, though, if you're considering the Broncos, or maybe if you're on the fence in this one, the Broncos at home in September since 1970, 75-20-2 straight up.
Solid.
So there's such a money outright pick at home early in the season. What I attribute that to is maybe you got to consider the altitude at this point because teams are coming into Denver early in the season. Maybe they're not at their peak health, I guess, or peak performance. So maybe they're getting slowed down a little bit. But I do like the Bears anywhere inside of 3 points.
Yeah.
Both of these teams very, very disappointing for me in week 1 from a betting perspective, and I'm just not going to bet this game.
I had the Broncos in a contest and obviously let me down. I think the Bears come back and put up a big statement win here. Even though, I thought Cortland Sutton looked good for the Broncos, but it's still Joe Flacco.
Yeah, he looked so disinterested.
Very sloppy in the pocket.
Like people call him cool, he's very cool. No, man, he looked like he was playing for the money. He did not give a shit about being in that game last night. Their defense wasn't good. Vic Fangio, whatever. Chicago Bears guru. No, you got to have the players to be a guru. His players got carved up last night. He might have a little bit of insight into the Chicago Bears offense, maybe. So even though the total's 40.5, I wouldn't hate an underplay here. But yeah, I think the Bears will have a better time and they will have had more increased focus on their offensive performance because it was so bad in week 1. So despite the numbers of Denver covering at home and winning at home, I'd probably take the Chicago Bears here. Remember, they were a Super Bowl favorite just about 6 days ago.
Yeah, I absolutely love Chicago in this spot here in week 2.
The Vic Fangio thing, I want to follow up on that because I think a lot of people will go into this and say Fangio knows his team. He knows the Bears. Guys, that goes two ways. The Bears know him. They know his tendencies. So I don't really think that is a reason to pick the Broncos. And I was really concerned with the Broncos offensive coordinator. I had no clue who this guy was. They just happened to show him on the screen. He was the 49ers quarterback coach last year. His first time playing or calling plays. So the combo of him and Fangio, first time head coach, not very good.
Yeah. Bears for me all day long here, especially like you said, Joe, if it sits there inside of the key number of 3. Sunday nighter is a battle of the birds. The Philadelphia Eagles visit the Atlanta Falcons, and it opened with the Dirty Birds as 1-point home underdogs. Plus 1.5 out there as well, depending on your book. There's even a 2.5 in Vegas. There's a few of them in Vegas as well. Falcons, yeesh, didn't look so hot. They get a home game here, though. And, of course, Philly, victim of a backdoor cover by the Redskins, but did get the W. What do you got for this?
Yeah, we got some numbers that favor the Falcons. They've been a great home team early in the season. 14-5 against the spread in their last 19 home games during the opening month of the season. Now, last year, these two teams played in week 1. The Eagles defeated the Falcons 18-12, so a bit of a disappointing start for Atlanta there. But then they bounced back the next week. They defeated the Panthers 31-24 at home. All that said, I think the Eagles looked awesome in the second half versus the Redskins. A lot of rust to start the game for Carson Wentz, who hadn't played in a game since last December. So they got off to an awful start, but from late in the second quarter to the end of the game, they outscored the Redskins by 22 points.
Yeah.
It would have been even more. And the Redskins scored that garbage time touchdown with 6 seconds left.
Yep.
So I think the Eagles are going to be a force. I think the Falcons, they could still bounce back a little bit and play well. That doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win the game, but I would side with the Eagles here.
Yeah, it's interesting that we're talking about this game right now. I just flicked over on Twitter and Gilles has a video up that says, how should you handle teams that lose by double digits in week 1 of the NFL season? GDog 5000 breaks down why you shouldn't overreact when betting on week 2. So Ian McMillan, the king of overreacting and also the only steadfast Atlanta Falcons fan that I know.
Not anymore, apparently.
Was really down on his team after week 1. I expect Matt Ryan to be a lot better at home. I expect the Falcons to score a few more points at home. The total's at 51, though. That's a little bit high for me.
Yep.
It's basically a pick 'em right now. I would say the Eagles looked like the better football team. So while I'll probably stay away from this, I would lean to the Philadelphia Eagles.
Week 2 concludes with the Joe Osborne Bowl, as I call it. The Cleveland Browns at the New York Football Jets. The Jets opened as 1.5-point home underdogs when lines were hung on Sunday night. And now we're sitting here looking at 2.5. There's some 3s out there. Two teams that need to bounce back in a major way with a convincing performance, because while the Jets as a team look decent for 3 quarters-ish, against the Bills. Sam Darnold did not look good at any stretch of the game. They blew it. And then the Cleveland Browns, Skip Bayless, I think it was, tweeted after the first drive that Baker Mayfield made a real statement for the MVP. And then that all went to shit. Yeah, exactly.
He made a few more statements during the game.
So, yeah, real big game here on Monday night. What do you got for this year, Joe Osborne?
So I know it's not the same old Browns, and this trend extends into the Hugh Jackson-led Browns and the 0-16 team. But in the Cleveland Browns' last 29 games on the road, they are 2-27, straight up.
Ugh.
Very bad. Now, of course, we have a smaller sample size, but another stinker for the Jets. They've been getting their ass kicked at home. They're 0-6 straight up, 0-5-1 ATS in their last 6 games at home. Average losing margin of 13.17. So, of course, we saw these teams play last year when the Browns got their first win of the season. That was the Baker Mayfield game. I like the Browns to bounce back. I have them as one of my bounce back teams. You know, I like to dump on them quite a bit, but kind of looking at it objectively, they do have a ton of talent. Odell Beckham going home in a way. He's going back to his old home field, not playing his old team. So, you know, he's always got a chip on his shoulder, so maybe he'll have 2 chips on his shoulder.
His
Yeah, arsehole. But, yeah, I think, you know, the Browns spotlight, get away from home. That might take a little bit of heat off them. They do have a lot of pressure on them, no doubt. But, yeah, I would go Cleveland.
I'm going to take Gilles' advice and not overreact to week 1, and I'll back the Browns again. I also like their team total at 24 points here. They're too good offensively not to have big games. Now, they might lose some games where they score a lot of points too, but against the New York Jets, I kind of like them to cover their team total of 24.
I got to go with the Jets.
All right.
Like, it's almost the perfect game for Sam Darnold to have put together a strong 4 quarters, because the Browns defense is one that he can, you know, sort of pick apart. Maybe he'll throw for, you know, close to 300, efficient game. Lev Bell could have a big game. Home field, home underdog. You know, sitting here on a Tuesday afternoon, I'm sort of leaning with the Jets on Monday Night Football. Now, granted, I'll have to wait to see how my Sunday picks go, because this past weekend, my Sunday bets were garbage. Jets money line, Eagles first half. I did have the Titans. I can't even remember. I had the Jags. Can't even remember the others. But yeah, sort of all in all, some tough games on the board to cap this week. And of course, we're only 1 week in.
Yeah, it always is in week 2, and we're definitely going to see some surprises this week. We're going to see some teams stand out. There's always surprises in the NFL. There's always a ton of turnover with the playoff teams from year to year. So I look for maybe the Bengals to be one of these teams that stands out. I was very impressed with their loss.
Yeah.
With your 49ers still stuck
That's a tough one for the Niners,
on the wrong
man.
coast.
Yeah.
So, yeah, there's going to be some surprises, but, man, I'm pumped to be back in my jogging pants on Sunday afternoon with some cold beer and some snacks and firing up Red Zone.
Yeah, 8 of the games this week have a spread of 3 or less right now.
Yeah.
Another one at 4, and another one at 4.5. So, yeah, it does make it very difficult, or does it make it kind of easy? You know, is it obvious in some regards? We're still learning, obviously, about these teams. There's teams who went from playing a good team, now they go to play a bad team, or vice versa. So I would say after this week, we will have a better idea.
And we have NFL picks and college football picks throughout the week on the Guys and Bets show over on our YouTube channel. Every Monday through Friday, noon Eastern. So make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel so you don't miss anything. Joe and Kris, every day. Nothing like spending your lunch with Joe and Kris.
I agree. I have messages from people that come in to say that they will excuse themselves to the bathroom at work, and they'll sit in a bathroom stall with their headphones and watch the
Is
the
that
show.
true?
So, yeah, a guy messaged me that and I said, all right, man, we'll take the numbers. I don't care where you're watching.
No, you can
man.
watch it wherever.
We want to do good numbers, so
That's right.
watch from wherever you would like at at a graveyard while watching a funeral in the distance. If
Yeah.
you'd like, we want the numbers. So
And
bring 'em on.
Joe Osborne 2-0 with his Monday Night Football picks. You were on the Texans +7, and you were on the under in the nightcap there between the pathetic Denver Broncos and Oakland Raiders. And hopefully we keep the picks going. We thank you all so much for listening to the podcast. Don't forget, every Wednesday, our very own Kris Abbott talks to Harry Gagnon from the Against All Odds podcast, where they break down a bit more college football, some more NFL. Do you know what you guys are talking about this week?
What Harry and I are talking about? Yeah, we got a bunch of stuff to talk about. So the normal college and NFL picks, but we've also got, he broke down on his way to a round of golf last Friday in Arizona in 110 degrees in the middle of the freeway.
Who tweeted that?
He did, and then, Brother Bry, I think, got him.
Brother Brian.
So he was sitting on the freeway, like all jokes aside, in 110 degrees, leather interior. That'll get real uncomfortable real fast.
Yeah.
So we talk about that. We talk about Harry's doing really well in the 2 Las Vegas contests he's in. Yeah, I think he went 6-1 at the Golden Nugget contest this week.
Attaboy,
so
Harry.
he's doing really well. And he had a very, very good weekend betting. I have some tales to tell about college near misses where I had 4 bets that lost in 6 total seconds of gameplay. Went from win to loss, which is kind of crazy. And
then what's that segment you guys have that's sweeping the nation?
Oh!
Little Hogs and Big Dogs?
No, it'll be big hogs and underdogs.
Okay.
Don't talk about little hogs. There's no little hogs on that show.
Are you guys the Hugs?
We are the big hogs, yeah.
I like it.
Yeah, we are also underdogs, believe it or not. So it's interesting. I was thinking about a name for the pod as well.
Yeah.
And I came up today with Harry Backs.
Yep.
Because
not bad.
that works on a few different ways, right?
Yeah, it's layered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I've seen some pictures of him with his shirt off. And I've seen pictures of me with my shirt off.
Private photos that you guys have exchanged? Or?
We do have encrypted server that we like to just to keep ourselves safe. Yep.
So make sure that
All right.
This is the kind of shit you're going to hear on the show with
Let's
Harry
get
and I.
going.
Make sure that you listen to Kris and Harry's podcast and leave us a 5-star review, especially if you're subscribing on iTunes and listening there. We appreciate all the feedback, positive or otherwise, from the listeners out there. So there's week 2, early lines capping, and some picks there for you for the NFL. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll check you next week.